a natural break point at that, to do that because the 7-4 does some graphing. I think there's only 6 sections in this unit, I want to say.
So I just have like one section.
Double check here.
Subfolder, does that mean you're going to be gone?
Yeah, I'm not going to be right. Math team tomorrow.
Yeah, man, math team.
7-5.
Wait,
Just-
no, man, I'm not bad. And then this year I'm going to
So we're going to look at stuff like this.
I know what it is.
We're going to do stuff like this. The part of it? Yes.
3! Shut your faces. 3.
Yes. Might as well let you guys know what's going on in
Does
this.
not do it at all?
They're going to have to, you'll have to redo it. I know. It's one of those things. It's
And just like we said the rest of the week.
one of those things.
It can be 6 of us.
Here's what we're looking at. All right, I'm done with it. I want to get through this.
It's 3, by the way.
All right, so we're looking at this now as nth roots. And nth roots, it's going to be relatively easy this first day or so on some of these things. Instead of taking like a regular old boring square root, a regular old boring square root just looks like that. What's the number that you don't see then? This is actually a 2.
Really?
Really. The number that is there, a square root actually means half power. A fourth root means 1/4 power. We're going to be working back and forth today with powers and exponents and nth roots and things. And this is basically just asking you here, like a square root would be, what are 2 numbers you multiply together that are the same to get you 81? Would have been 9 times 9, or
3 times 3 times 2 times negative.
negative 9 times negative 9.
Nice.
The fourth root is just asking it a little bit differently. What are 4 numbers you multiply together that are the same?
3.
3.
Or
It
negative.
sounds like the start to a song.
Or negative 3, negative 3, negative 1.
No.
I seem to recognize.
Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Up in here. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, did you hear the way it sounded like?
Dude, can you rewrite 3 times 3 times 3 times 3? Just on the smart board real quick.
This is what I'm writing.
Ready? Y'all gonna make me lose my mind.
That's how the song starts. It's like, ba-boom, 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 ba-boom. And then they start singing.
Do you ever listen to yourself?
Yeah, you're
Did
insane.
you? Sometimes.
Okay.
I'll write it down.
So, already know. Basically, it's going to boil into these things that you already know. Don't write this out. Let's think of this logically. Think of this logically.
I'm not very good at thinking.
I know.
Alright.
It's I.
It's going to have an I, right?
Yeah.
So does this have a real root? No, there's no real root here because you have a negative power. What if I do that?
Yeah, it does work.
It does work, and why does it work?
Because it's a negative 2, 2.
Because it's with an odd. What happens here, since you have an odd power, you can have a negative root of an odd power. That works. So odd roots. Oops. Are okay. Odd roots of negative are okay. Even ones are bad. Okay. If you do the even version of it, this is going to be your imaginary stuff. All right, you're going to want with imaginary. We're not worrying about imaginary answers here at all. We're just going to be solving them through. Same idea if you have an nth root, some nth root of of 0. It's always going to be 0. You know, what's 2 numbers multiplied together? It's 0. 0. Okay. It's really, really, really straightforward. I do want to introduce you to the way that they write this out, this nth root stuff, though. Nth roots are written like this. That's all it is. Another way of writing that then is a to the 1 over n. Those two mean the same thing. Yeah, it's similar. It is a little bit similar to that. Yeah, it's very similar to that. Okay. You might have done a little bit of this, a little bit of rewriting before. You might have. I don't think it comes up very often in geometry at all, but it just kind of seems. You might have. You might have. These first couple of sections tend to be a little bit of review. 7.2 is a little bit tougher because there's a lot of, you have to do the exponent rules that you seem to always forget about, power to power, things like that, but with fractions. These nth roots then is they're going to ask you questions like this. Find the nth root of negative 125. So if they give you an n value, that's your nth root of negative 125. Negative 5. Yes, sir.
Will there be a square root inside of a square root?
Yes, you can do that.
Now, how high are the n's going to go?
That's a great question. This is a great question. Square root of a square root.
Can the square root be the nth term?
Yes, because here's what happens.
Don't do this to us.
This is what happens. Here's what happens, and this is more what we get to in 7.2.
Okay.
This is the same thing as saying 16 to the half power raised to the half power. What is the rule of power to power? What do you do with your exponents? Multiply. So you're getting 16 to the 4th, which is the 4th root of 16.
So every time the square root's together, then you leave the square root.
What?
So we're going-
Yes.
and this is how that works. It's a great question. We'll talk more about that stuff on Wednesday.
I just had a great thought.
It's crazy. It happens every once in a while, right? Write this down.
Every 3 years.
It's like the groundhog.
Why could it 16 like
This should go down in this one.
Same thing. Why not? So you can also do things like this. We're going to rewrite things in terms of nth roots. We're going to rewrite them kind of where he was going with about the square root within a square root by using fractional exponents. Okay? When you're working with fractional exponents, you have your basic rules. If you have anything, let me just write this out larger, a to the m over n. What that is telling you is the following. It's still always going to be the nth root. Remember that n value is always in the denominator for the fractions. It's the nth root of a raised to the m power.
So is the m normally equal 1 unless it's 2 to the power?
Correct. Yes. All right.
Sounds cool.
So as you go through some of these things, and I'll have some other examples here in a second, we also can do it in terms of a negative root. What is the rule for negative exponents? It goes, yeah, they're not happy where they are. So this one would be 1 over a to the m n, therefore gives you 1 over the nth root of a raised to the m. I thought it was really boring. It sounded like you were snoring.
Or like, you're doing that. Like, seriously, get it wrong.
While you're ahead. Okay. Now, what will happen here is that we can use these very simple formulas working back and forth to solve nth root problems by hand, which means you'll be able to simplify things without the use of a calculator. No?
Can I please?
So let's look at a couple of these, and you'll be
Can I install
just stop. Let's look at a couple of these, and I'll show you how very simple it is to figure out what 9 to the 3 halves is. If you want to figure out what 9 to the 3 halves, that means it's the nth root of 2 of 9 cubed. Think about your order of operations. Order of operations, you have to start on the innermost parenthesis. What's the square root of 9?
3.
What's 3 cubed? You can do this by hand.
27.
I'm still 27.
Well, when they have negative, what's the first thing you're going to do? Make it positive. So you wind up with 1 over 32 to the 2/5, which means it's going to be the 5th root of 32. And then I'm going to square it.
They do slash fraction.
What is the 5th root of 32? 2. What's 2 squared?
4. What's the 1/4? How did you know the 5th root of 32?
Well, think about it. If it's going to be something that's, what are 5 numbers you have to multiply together that are the same number that's going to make it equal to 32?
I don't know.
Has to be 2.
Of course.
Sorry.
Think about it. What's 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1?
You could do, oh, they have to be the same
No, it's
number.
one.
I was about to be
One.
like, you could do 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 32.
Then you would be wrong.
No, it wouldn't be.
It's not the 5th root of 32, though. Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you have the negative number, you just basically move it all to the bottom and put a 1 on top? Okay.
It's making some weird noises.
Okay? And then the same idea when I do this. It's already given us in the nth roots without the rational, without the weird fraction exponent. Here you get the cube root of -8, which is -2. Negative 2 to the 5th power is how much?
Negative 32.
-32.
There we go.
Go get a drink of water.
So nasty.
Quit smoking.
Okay, don't take your time. Please leave.
For once I'm agreeing with her.
Hold on. I
Does
gotta-
that make sense how this one works?
Wait, never.
You work on the innermost parenthesis, work your way out. Cube root of -8 is -2. -2 to the 5th power, it is locked, I'm not letting her in, is going to equal
-32.
-32. Yes, you will have non-calculator. You will have to be able to do that by hand. They're not that difficult. By the time you do a couple of these a year, the number recognition is going to be very easy. Okay?
So will it become more difficult?
Not really, except for if you have to do it with a calculator. Let me show you guys how to put this stuff in the calculator. Let's do the 4th root of 5 all cubed.
That's math.
There is no 4 root of 5.
You're right. You have to know how to type it in the calculator.
Just put it in the math.
Yes, sir.
It's in the math button.
Wow, it's not like everyone was just.
No.
He has a pencil.
Oh, I thought it was Hannah.
Here, get some more batteries real quick. If you go to math, option number 5, that's how you get the nth roots. Obviously, when you do that right off the bat, you see that where it says answer.
So you have to hit the
Just
number.
overwrite, yeah, just overwrite it, or you can hit the number 4, and I'll show you both ways. Overwrite it and hit 4. You want to do the 4th root of 5? Okay, there's the 4th root of 5. Some decimal. Now you have to cube it, so you just hit to the 3rd power and hit enter. And that's how it goes. The other way of doing that is to, since you know you have to do the 4th root, put in the number 4 first. Now go to math, option 5, and it makes it a 4th root for you.
She's marking up your windows.
Oh. There's a couple of different ways of doing it. The other way is, since if you want to type it in to make it look exactly the way it is on the page,
What a disturbance. sickness out of here, animal.
If you want to make it look like the way that it wasn't in the problem, you start the problem with a parenthesis. And then you do the same thing. 4, math,
Hello, Alan.
5, shh. Close the parenthesis to the third. And you can type it exactly the way that it looks. There's a couple ways of going about it. Yes, ma'am?
Could you type in 5 to the power of 3 over 4?
Yeah, that'll work too.
Okay.
Okay. There's a few ways of doing it. They're all going to use the same one. When I do my approximation ones, I always go 2 decimal places. It's kind of like the generic way I set these things up. So type that one in, figure that one out. I'm going to go get some more batteries. I'll be right back in a minute.
I'm fine.
Oh, yay.
How do I do this? I was too busy
Haha.
in the hallway.
Negative 32.
What time does it say it's leave?
12, 11. I don't have any other time for
I
this.
don't want to get my mom.
Like my mom uses the option to either go tonight or go to school.
Wait, why do you have to go?
Please tell me. Alan, what you supposed to do?
Oh, no, 11:50.
Okay, first of all, it's not even 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
I already knew it. I was like,
You guys are so funny.
can I have one? I got no batteries or something. Yeah. I was always.
Your battery's dead? Does it say change your batteries? And then you don't need them.
Does it say change your batteries when you need to change them?
So let's continue then and go to where we have to solve equations. So it is pretty easy. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways of setting these things up, because sometimes you're going to get answers that work, sometimes you're going to get answers that won't. What'll happen here is we're going to set them up and you solve them like you would normally. What's going to change is instead of at the very end taking a square root, you're going to take some nth root. All right? What would the first step be in this problem? Okay, divided by 2.
You get 81, and then you get 32.
X to the 4th.
Wow.
You trying to give everyone else a chance?
And then you take the top. And then you do your 4th root. So X is going to give you what?
3.
4.
Negative 3.
Oh, I didn't.
Because it's an even root. Okay. Now sometimes there's gonna be instances where this plus minus thing gets a little fuzzy. All right, we'll explain more as they come up. Remember, when you take when you take an even root over an equal sign, when you're taking that on both sides, it will be plus minus. What about the other one? What are you gonna do first?
You gotta get the cube root.
Cube root, good. Now, I'm going to show you 2 ways of writing this out. Cube root of 10 is not going to be nice. It's an icky number. Okay? What we're going to do is we'll write it out in terms of a decimal approximation as well as an exact answer. So what I mean by exact answer is very similar to when we did square roots, when we just leave the roots in the problem. We're going to do the same idea here. Now, I get x minus 2 is going to be the cube root of 10. What do I do now? Add 2. So then I get x equals the cube root of 12. Okay, good, you're paying attention.
Okay, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
let's do that. Okay, yeah, that sounds
And proper etiquette-wise is you put your integer values first before you put anything with the funky roots or anything like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's usually, because a lot of times what will happen is if you write it up as cube root of 10, it looks like it's underneath the radical.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So that's why we usually put it in front. So this would be considered your exact answer. All right? Now your approximate then would just be putting your calculator around into two decimal places.
4.15.
Yeah.
Now, which are you going to look for? Both
I'm going to ask for
of
both.
those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please. I'm going to ask you guys to get in the habit when they have non-nice looking answers to always write down both the exact as well as the decimal approximation. Okay? When you get to standardized testing, a lot of times they do exact. Yes, ma'am.
Do you want us to put the about sign, or is it okay if it's real? Some teachers are like really picky about that. They won't
Do I look that picky?
You are a couple.
I do get ticky-tacky every once in a while.
You've used some words
Yes,
today
sir.
that you've never said before, like wishy-washy. You said that like 8 times. I've never heard you say before.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you
I might have also said hello to you too, which I probably never do.
Yeah, you didn't say it.
Okay, so when you want the exact decimal, sometimes the decimal place is like.
It doesn't matter. Usually 2 decimals is fine. I know what you mean if it's like 0.125.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
That sounds good. All right.
Are you with
So take a minute and solve those. Then we'll make it a little bit more difficult.
I really enjoyed myself.
Yes.
Or is it plus minus 5?
Oh, wait, no, it's not.
Just 5.
Yeah.
It's not plus minus.
Oh, it's a negative 20, that's why. Thank you.
Wait.
No,
-4.
Yeah, I got negative.
I'm just making sure you guys are getting it right. I'm right.
I'm kidding.
I know.
It's like, what is it to do now?
5.62.
10.
No, it's only 1,000.
It's plus or minus 1,000.
Oh wait, no, it is $10,000.
They do that in third hour too. Seriously, you add 7.
Why?
You've got to put a whole bunch of zeros in there.
I thought it was 1,000.
You're wrong.
You are so dim-witted.
Words hurt. Because when you're on your own in this life, life is not yours alone. And you think you've had too much to carry on. Just hang on. Because everybody hurts. REM, it just makes you feel sad.
Don't you cry.
We okay on that one now?
Have you ever heard Nights When We by REM?
Mr. Murphy.
I hate that song so much. You know,
I do know all the words that, in the world as we know it, though.
I love that song.
All right, let's get, yes, sir.
It's the,
Did you know if you do a really big problem and then you forget
it's
something?
As We Know It. That's the name of the
Enter,
song.
and it'll bring the problem right back down. That is so helpful.
It is very helpful.
Oh.
So let's make it a little bit more weird.
Would you make it weird? There's a Disney version of Home Alone. That's new.
No, but you can't like.
In this case here, I need to get rid of the square root symbol.
Just square everything.
So I have to square everything. So I have to square both sides of the equation.
Oh, so you'll get like a whatever.
You get a factoring problem.
X.
So what is the square root of junk squared?
Jump.
Junk.
Jump to jump.
Okay.
Set aside equal to 0 and factor. So we set aside equal to 0. We get 0 is x squared plus x minus 56.
7 and 8, but it will be negative 7 and 8.
Okay. So we have so our zeros are 7 and negative 8. Which means we have to go back and double check our answers. Make sure that they work. We're looking for that extraneous solution. A lot of times with square root stuff, you have to take it verbatim as to what they're saying. They don't play a lot of the rules of plus minuses here. They're going to say it's going to equal this, even though we know because they're not taking the square root over both sides. And let me show you how this works. If I do this, I get 56 minus 7. Take the square root. Does that equal 7?
Yes.
Okay.
That's so cool.
56 minus the negative 8. Take the square root of that. Does it equal negative 8?
Yeah.
No.
Wait. Oh,
No.
Duh, Allie.
That doesn't work. They're 2 feet down. They're looking at it in terms of, I know what you're saying, it would be plus minus, but what they're doing is they're working from left to right. There's no square root over both sides of the equal sign here. They're just saying the square root of 64 equals negative 8. That's wrong. It has to equal 8. Okay? The only time you worry about doing plus minus is if you're solving an equation and you're taking the square root over both sides, and it's an even nth root. Does that make sense?
So extraneous means the one that solves it?
The extraneous is one that solves it but doesn't solve it. It's the answer, but it's not the right answer.
It's
It's the answer, but it's not.
Correct. See how -8, if I get 64, the square root of 64 is 8. It's not -8.
So negative 8 is extraneous?
-8 would be extraneous. How I like to do is this.
Will this eventually lead to multiple terms like?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What is it, -8 times -8, 64?
Once again, what you're doing here is you're taking the square root of only this. The only time we do plus minus is if we're taking the square root over both sides of an equal sign.
Square root of 64
When you're
is not-
solving it out. When we're not solving it out,
Okay.
see what I'm saying? Does
Yeah,
that make
so
more
like
sense?
when you square root over an equal sign, you have to do
Correct.
plus or minus.
Yes,
You're
sir.
not doing it.
Okay. Does that make more
I
sense?
still don't understand why you're going to church
Yeah.
in the middle of school.
Well, because I don't want to go at night, and I'd rather be at home.
Actually,
No, but that doesn't make sense. Like, why do you have to go?
I don't know.
I was busy.
It's a holy day of obligation.
Why? Why is it that though?
Christmas. That was great.
Christmas is in 18 days. 17
Do these two.
days.
Take a minute, solve those two, please. Don't call it a day. Guys, square both sides. -1 minus k is 9. So you get -10 is k.
Yes.
Double check your answer, make sure it works. Square root of -1 minus a -10, that gives me +9, which is 3.
That equals a yes.
Yay! Square both sides.
I was so confused on this one.
You get 81 equals x over 7.
Times by 7.
Multiply by 7.
Yes,
567.
Check your
Equals
work.
X.
Put that in. That's 81. So that's 9. We got it.
So show.
Homework. Section 7.1.
How is he giving us the homework?
Page.
We get this work. All we do is
Oh, do you think we don't have a life?
hide the box.
You seriously think this is going to take very long?
Never.
Yes.
I mean, this should take 10
If
minutes.
you do, then you crazy.
Yes, indeed.
Or you just wait.
Yeah.
It right.
I'm crazy English. I don't get used to it.
For that grouping is the equation stuff. Give both exact and decimals if you need to. Some of them will equal 3. Some of them might be 3 plus the root 2 or something. So give both the exact answer and your decimal equivalent if need be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That's what you
Yeah, they're both sets of these are evens. Like I said, you'll be pleasantly surprised at how fast this is going to take you to go. In the parts that says to try to solve without the calculator, try in fact to do that. Okay, don't use your calculator to solve the calculator. Give it a shot. We'll go over this again on Wednesday. So like I said, we will be around tomorrow for some math team stuff.
Who will be around?
I don't know, somebody.
How are we
Fun
gonna be
tomorrow.
doing just like a worksheet?
We'll have-
Yeah, I got more of these things for you guys to do. I got a worksheet I made up for you.
So
Let's do
tomorrow
this
I'll
all.
have a worksheet.
Yeah.
Okay, that's.